perhaps one of the largest paradoxes of being a writer or an author or just anyone involved in the creative process is that people are very, very good at seeing the mistakes and the flaws with someone else's work, but you cannot see it with your own. It's like a Greek tragedy, one of those sort of tales where, kind of like maybe Cassandra, where you can see the future and know what's going to happen, but no one's going to believe you. Yeah, you can see everyone else's work. You can see all the flaws, the mistakes, the writing errors, punctuation mistakes, what have you. But when it comes to your own work, you're absolutely clueless. You never see it. The amount of times that I've sent stuff to critique groups or even like an editor and thought that, okay, they can't possibly find anything, and they start pointing out small things that I made mistakes on that I didn't realize, it's absolutely mind-blowing. It's very, very strange. It is quite strange. But yeah, it's a paradox. The reason for it is, I think, just that our brains tend to omit mistakes of our own work. We know how a sentence should read. We recognize how we want a piece to sound, and so we read the story in that way. So if there is a word that's not in there, maybe you omitted like an A, like an article, right? Like an A or a the, whatever. Or maybe you just have an extra word in there that you forgot, that you did on your first pass, that you forgot to delete on when you revised the sentence, and you just haven't recognized that it's in there. Your brain skips over it. Your mind, when you read it, looks over it. It jumps. It just flips through it. It happens to everyone. It's a very common phenomenon. It happens in a lot of avenues of life. Again, if you watch my chess games on here, you'll see me like overlook things, situations where I'll say afterwards, man, that looked perfect. That looked the perfect move. I didn't think there was any way the guy had a checkmate on me, or I thought that was the perfect checkmate. And I look at it again and I realize, oh, I didn't notice this thing. It skipped over me. I had a blind spot. We all have blind spots in our writing, in our work. Our brains have us doing more than what we think we're doing, or I guess vice versa. But that is an annoying paradox, and I've had to learn that probably the hard way today. I was going through a story that, again, was done. I said it was finished. I went through it now with some fresh eyes after like a month. Or, well, no, it's been more than a month now. Went through it, and I noticed a couple sentence errors. A couple sentences basically where they were just not, it was just not written well. Like I had an article that was in there that shouldn't be there. I had some stories that were just worded the wrong way. I had certain sentences that were just clunky that I had to make a couple quick tweaks to. And again, things where I was certain these sentences and everything was perfect when I went through it the first time, or when I went through it after, so many drafts initially, that just taking a month away and coming back and looking at it, it was very, very shocking. This is often why I talk so much about the benefit of a critique group, about the necessity to have people in your corner that can assist you with this process. That this is not a process you can do alone. We're just people by themselves simply often are not good enough to notice these mistakes and to notice these flaws and to notice these blind spots that we have. And it takes other people to sort of point them out for us. It's sad. It's annoying, certainly, but it's the truth. So for me today, what I did is I went through and edited, again, one of my stories that I thought was finished and just made some corrections to it. It now reads perfectly, at least in my head, at least the way I'm reading it now. But I'm sure if I put it away for another month and look at it again, I'd probably find maybe one or, maybe potentially one or two other sentences that just have some sort of punctuation error or grammar error. Again, it's tough. It's tough to look at it in the moment. You have to have some distance, and if you don't have someone else, time is your best friend. Distance is the best editor. Whether that's someone else who's completely distant from the piece because they didn't write it, they haven't seen it before, and so they're completely fresh, or distance in terms of time away to sort of reset your brain. But distance is the best editor. And I'm almost questioning now if I'm gonna have to, if I should put this aside, if I should wait to submit these stories again, wait another month and come back and make sure I can't find any more flaws at all. In general, small things are not usually going to sink your chances when it comes to towards like submissions. So in other words, if you submit to like a lit mag, small grammar mistakes are not usually going to be the thing that's going to get you killed. Magazines will still accept you, lit mags online, wherever you're submitting to. They generally will accept a piece with mistakes. If you have a sentence that sounds clunky, you have a sentence that grammar is a little bit off, basically, if you have an extra word that you didn't delete, whatever, they're not going to outright reject you for something like that. It does make the reading experience more difficult. It does count as like a ding amongst other dings against you. So if you're already on maybe like thin ice with your piece, maybe they're not really buying into it, plus there's mistakes, that might tear them over the edge. But if you write a story that is compelling, that is overall well written with some mistakes, you don't usually have to worry about that. It's not something that's usually gonna destroy you there. Would some of the top magazines, would The Atlantic, would the Paris Review, whatever, reject you for a small mistake? Probably. I mean, they'd reject you for, just, getting out of that slush pile if you're not represented, if you don't have some background already, just to get through that slush pile, you'd get rejected for very, just not having a piece that catches their attention right away. That's more or less kind of how the reality of top lit mags kind of works. But for me, at least today, this was a good day to go through and just kind of get, I guess, my mojo back, get back the sort of rhythm of being, an author again, of being a writer. I said yesterday that it's been too long, that I felt like I've gone way too long without focusing on this craft, even though it's only been a couple weeks. It hasn't been that long at all. It's been time away from reworking these stories that has really hurt me a little bit. So I'm going to continue to kind of dilly-dally with that. I'm going to be reworking these stories probably for at least a few more days. And I've still got, again, potentially a week and a half, 2 weeks left till I get my novel back from the editor, and then we'll get back to actually focusing on getting these stories self-published. But with that, I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you again for watching this.